Okay, so I assume everybody has read through this, and we'll just quickly flip through the segments, and then we'll open it up for questions and comments and so forth. So we lead in with the memo from Julie Tamark with a brief oversight of how we got and where we are with this draft plan, proposed next steps. And then the next section are attachments, and again, we keep in mind what we're attempting to do here is that we are presenting to the select board, the decision makers, the managers, briefing material for them to consider as they make their decision what the ultimate next steps would be. So our job is to do what we were doing, research the imagery in phase one. We did our presentation. Phase two, as they asked us to do, was to give them a plan, and then it'll be up to them to actualize it. And so again, I'm not going to go into the detail. I'll just keep flipping through. So we have a sample of a warrant, mission statement that we created, a suggested committee composition, ideas for community outreach, identify current uses of the seal, graphics design services, that's one of our recommendations. And then ultimately there'll be draft bylaws on what the select committee or ad hoc committee, after the process is completed, what their suggestions are, and whether it's 1 or 2 or 3 suggestions, that's up to the committee to decide. And then included the Natick as a sample, which is what was used to write our draft article. The next is an email stream between David Whedon and myself, which provides some interesting context, which dovetails nicely into the subsequent articles, in the Boston Globe and the having to do with the state seal, and then the Cape Cod Times having to do with the Mashpee process and their seal. And again, what's important, again, that we're providing the select board is for the committee is this is a roadmap. We've identified, based on best practices of other towns around Massachusetts, and Mashpee kind of being the gold standard because they created it, they got through it, and they're done. So there's a process that works. And if you read through the Globe piece, David Whedon just joined the state committee because he brings firsthand capabilities to a process that's floundering at the state level, dealing with similar issues that we did. Well, what does the select board want us to do? Do they want us to actually design a new seal? What do they want to do? Do you want us to get community input? What do you want us to do?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So this whole document will be conveyed how to who?
My proposal is that this whole document goes to Mark Forrest.
I mean, do you just want to send it to Mark, or would you like to send it to the entire board?
Oh, no, it's Mark is the head, but it should go
Yeah.
to the entire
So,
board.
I mean, what we generally do is, if the commission settles on some kind of correspondence they want to send to the board, we have the memo and we'll just deliver across the hall to the town administrator who will distribute to the board.
So you won't be presenting anything in a public forum.
Mhm. Well-
I'm concerned about that because while this is great and thorough and you've got everything buttoned up here, there's a lot of negative stuff in here that would stir people up.
So you
Well-
want more public
It's kind of
context?
like a little bit about the article. The article reflected some negative aspects about things, and people picked up on it and actually came to the meeting and said something about it. And so we have to be conscious of that. So it's all great history. It's all documented perfectly, but the question is some of this just for the committee that is eventually to be, or should we present all of this to the select board? That's my question.
I
And-
think, I mean, I'm sorry, George,
Go ahead.
if I can, I mean, I think that it's a question. Because the board asked you to do X, Y, Z. I think you've put together that X, Y, Z. And so you're basically saying, here you go. Would you, and then the next part is really up to you. Would you like additional information? We'd be happy to discuss further if you like, but I think one of your big points that I'm gathering here is
How
that the
much?
effort should be broader, larger than the historic commission, that it should include, George has done a nice job listing out kind of a good representative group of people across the board. So, if you're looking to share the responsibility, I think we're good.
Are we
Okay.
waiting for George to finish going through this?
Sorry.
Sorry.
No, good question, Bob. And that's ultimately what the commission needs to decide. And then next is the town seal committee survey that they did. And, Melanie rightfully so, at the last meeting, questioned what warrant article was possibly quite heavy. And that, as you can see, Melanie, I simplified it because that was the Westboro example. And they did everything, including the kitchen sink and the cellar and the attic and the whole works. So, and also mentioned the visioning and you participated. So you had in your mind this long process, well, the references to a visioning type survey. And here is the survey that the Mashpee used. Again, short, focused, and again, it's to get input from the community as to what they see as those attributes in Yarmouth that makes Yarmouth special. And the committee would decide what the categories would be here in Yarmouth. And off the top of our heads, we could come up with a ton of them. So this shows that it's not exhaustive. You're not looking for a lot of printed, responses that will come in verbal responses when you have a public forum, give people. But this allows you to get some initial feedback. And David Whedon and the planner and Mashpee mentioned that once they got these back, it helped them crystallize with their process and help them move forward. So,
I have a question.
yeah.
So we're gonna deliver this, say, to the selectmen.
Mhm.
Are they then going to review it in a formal meeting? Or like, what, do we not know? That's just, we're just doing our next step. This was our next step here.
Right.
They take it from there and then they do what they want. They either just say never mind, or they say, let's put this on the meeting. Is that what?
It's up to,
Remember that?
yeah, so the
There,
chair,
it's all in their hands,
it's
right,
the
when-
chairman of the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Just like you,
Yeah,
is responsible for setting the board's agenda.
okay,
Mhm.
So you deliver it across the hall.
Yeah.
And, I think it's up to the chair, when and how to proceed.
so
Yeah.
then we would know if it's on an agenda.
Mhm.
And then
Absolutely.
we can decide if we want a representative to go to the meeting where they're going to discuss it, which would then satisfy Bob's question of
Mhm.
us being present to answer questions or field opposition.
Right.
Okay,
Right, yep.
that makes sense.
Yep. And that'll be Mark's decision whether they want us to come back in and amplify any of these items.
Gotcha.
So it's, here it is.
Yeah,
And here's all your briefing information.
Yeah. take it from there. and
Yeah, right.
We'll just see whatever they decide
Right.
is the next step.
So by us submitting this information, we're not making any judgment.
Exactly.
This is out there.
Yeah.
This is already in the public domain.
Mhm.
This is already being questioned locally on the Cape and across Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it. We're not sanitizing. We're saying, here it is. We're putting it in one place for you to look at.
Yeah.
You may not have seen the Globe article. You may not have seen the Cape Cod article. And having personal perspective of David Whedon has some weight
Yeah.
and perspective at the level that they're at, because he's the chair.
Yeah.
He's also the selectman there.
Mhm.
So if somebody questions, well, the assistant town administrator, he's too busy, he can't take this on. Well, best practices, here's what's worked elsewhere, that's your choice.
Yeah.
But it's not YHC running this,
Right.
we're a stakeholder,
Exactly.
so,
Yeah.
okay.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions regarding the document?
I tried last night because I happened to have been on the computer when this landed, so I went through it last night and it's trying to read it as if I was on the board, receiving this.
Mhm.
And I am wondering if there's a way to change a few of the labels
Mhm.
and of the organization to make it clear what is exactly the wording of the warrant that we are suggesting, and where does the end of what could be in the warrant end? Because it's not clear to me if page 3,
So if you look at page 2, Melanie,
I did,
and that has the sample warrant.
I'm asking if page 3 part of the warrant, but that would be
No,
information for that. I'm just saying.
Yep.
That as somebody's reading it late at night and is paying attention to 12 other things, I'm only asking if there's a way to label
Mhm.
organizationally a little clearer what is in
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
And the other thing that again, I'm reading it as if I'm not me. I would not want to be told I'm having a lesson. I would take out the word lessons for the committee.
Where did you say last?
The stuff that it is. So it would be,
Clarence,
for example, where it says next step lesson. For the Yarmouth Select Board to consider.
Mhm.
I think I would write brief update on the Massachusetts state seal process. Rather than lessons for the Yarmouth Select Board to consider, because I don't know if people. I'm on page 9,
So,
On page 9?
top of page 9.
So-
Okay.
On the top.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a
And-
good note.
Yeah.
and also on 12.
says that on
Mhm. So, I mean, that's fair, Melanie. So,
I'd be, I mean, if I can,
Mhm.
I'd be happy. I think that's a really good point, and I was
Mhm.
just having a look at it myself, and I was thinking the same thing, and I'm
Mhm.
happy to work with George if you guys want to
I think
kind
it
of
needs
just
almost
organize it a
table of
little. It's,
contents.
yeah, agreed. Agreed. Something,
Otherwise, it's not 100% clear if it's information, if it's
yeah,
what could be next step.
Mm-hmm.
For example, that the whole design information is really, really important. And I don't know if it needs to somehow be flagged as a possible next step. Because what I can't figure out is if from the mission statement, is it clear that the committee would actually propose a seal? Because what has happened in Mashpee is they did propose a newly redesigned seal.
Well, it states, so a couple of things. You're absolutely right in having this on two sides of say paper, that's okay, but so we have this cover memo and then attached, and then the next would say attachments. And then within that, we'll have the categories.
I'd even say like, I mean, just because it makes it easy kind of in flipping through is, yeah, you could. So just thinking out loud, right? When you put the memo on
Mhm.
letterhead,
Mhm,
it's gonna bounce to 2 pages.
mhm,
And you're gonna have room for a list of attachments.
Mhm.
So you can list your attachments there.
mhm,
And then I'd suggest kind of breaking up what you have attached
mhm,
into kind of separate documents. So like your
A synopsis.
the
of
meeting
the
warrant would be
Mashpee.
on 1 page. Your,
Mhm.
your committee charge would be on a next page
Mhm.
and separate, just to make it kind of brutally
Crystal
clear.
Yeah.
What's what.
information and what's the
Yeah.
next step,
Yeah.
and what's a proposal?
Like
I'm with
when you
you.
go into the Mashpee process and what they did.
mhm,
This, you could say something like attached was the Mashpee process without leading it into, we should do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right,
Sample process.
yes. The other thing,
Not sample, but something like and I know where you were going with lessons and all
Yeah.
that, but the process that Mashpee followed, or without leading it into anything that we think,
mhm.
you know, this is what happened, or it can be worded much better.
Yeah.
well, I'm starting like at the very, very beginning on page 2, and I brought up short by saying, is this exactly what needed?
No,
I know. I
this is
know,
crafted from,
I know.
Do you even need to say that?
You don't need to say it,
I was thinking.
Well,
I was
because
thinking-
you put Natick stuff in.
Yeah.
yeah, and again, I know this was not going to be the final. This was informative to the committee.
I know.
And then make the additions, and I'm fine with that. And I would suggest that my work is done. And Bob, you're good at this, and I would, if you are willing, I would suggest that you then take the next step to work with Karen to finalize. My work's done,
Okay,
So
okay?
My suggestion.
A lot of
was
work.
just again to avoid confusion.
Yes,
is
absolutely.
that I would have titled it the Yarmouth Town Seal Review Committee Town Meeting Warrant. So it's clear this is the warrant, and maybe with an asterisk saying based on the native warrant. if you want to say. But
Yeah,
but
even
not
if
have
we need
that
to.
basis in your
Yeah.
reading. Just
Sure.
again,
I'll tell you-
making clear what it is
Yeah.
you're suggesting and what it is that's a reference and what it is that's background is different.
Yep.
when do we have to put this in front of the selectmen?
It's up to you. I mean, there's no,
Well, my feeling where it's again in the news.
Yep.
We were mentioned in the, the story in the Yarmouth Town seal was referenced by the planning member, again, about our imagery. So it's in the news. I think it's important that we get this finished and get it out to the select board soon.
the board's meetings for this month We're, I believe they have one more meeting scheduled. So if you wanted to, technically the deadline, I think, is today for that meeting, but you can put it along. You're just hoping, I don't think it would be on the agenda for the 14th. But if you can submit it when you want, if you want to shoot for some time
I
before.
don't want to rush it. I hear
Right.
George is concerned about it's in the news
Yep.
now, but it's going to continue to be in the news, I think. I just don't want to rush it.
I mean,
I can meet sometime next week.
yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think that if you want to ship it, kind of move it off your plate,
We can send
you
it
can
to
do that.
them,
That's right.
Exactly.
and
And
they'll
then they-
read it. I mean,
Yeah,
And then they schedule it if they want.
Right,
So I think we just
exactly.
need to finish our work and move it off. And then it's beyond us.
Yep.
I think I'm free early in next week.
Okay, maybe after the meeting, if we have a couple minutes, we can, I didn't
Yeah.
take a
I don't mind
calendar with
helping
me.
edit it also. If you want.
Awesome. And if you guys want to get together and then pull me in at the end, that's fine, or we can do it in one, that's fine too. Whatever your pleasure.
You want to be?
What, too many cooks make the.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think Melanie, if I can, I think Melanie, you've got good comments, and I think, did you send an email?
Yes, I did,
Yes.
but I was told, we agreed it would only go to you,
Right.
Lisa and George.
Okay, yes.
Copy of it. There's a copy of it
Okay.
in the,
Oh,
in
great.
the materials.
Okay.
After the seal
No, but you said. more
information,
for,
there's
things.
Melanie
Yeah,
comments.
but
Oh,
Oh,
It
perfect.
was good
Yeah.
putting this together.
Nice. Okay. I have your notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to read again,
Mhm.
maybe after you've done.
Yeah, if you want to edit it and then we can send it out for one
Yeah.
more final read through.
Yep.
Pretend again that I'm somebody who doesn't
Yeah.
understand what you're doing.
And I'm sure Jack would appreciate
Yeah.
being part of it because
Absolutely. We did a lot of
because he
research, too.
crafted this front memo.
Right.
And we talked about it. So, it's just part two of the town seal efforts.
Yeah.
And so we worked well collaboratively then and as we did there, I was the hunter gatherer, and you guys made the meal. So here we are again. So
and if you want, and I'm sorry, I didn't bring my phone, but if you want, so it's kind of like if everybody wants to have another look,
Mhm.
then
That makes sense.
then it should be on the meeting agenda, honestly, because we really can't do the deliberation
Right.
piecemeal. I'm
Mhm.
sorry.
mhm.
But so
When's our
the
next meeting?
second, that's, I don't have my calendar, I gotta get up.
I thought that's what you did.
It would be January 13th, the second Thursday.
Mhm.
Or we could have a special meeting,
That's true.
Yep.
just to discuss this, because I think.
And again, as we did in the prior plan was, the committee got things together and worked on the crafting and then presented it. So I like that idea, Bob. Just do something, if you can get it
Can
done.
you propose a time when the room is available and you're available?
Will do.
I'll be gone till January 3rd. I'm leaving the 18th.
Just where you-
Bradenton, Florida. Beach.
Nice.
At the beach.
Nice.
Nice. Toes in the sand.
It's our destination Christmas every year.
I think that's great.
We go somewhere every year where it's
That's nice.
warm and sunny and near the water.
Uh,
We always have Christmas there.
That's very nice.
Yeah, my father-in-law started that, He brought all his kids from all over the country
Oh,
to Nokomis
wonderful.
Beach for 17 years.
I think that's
And we
super.
have all these traditions, and then when he died, it all stopped.
Oh.
And so Laura and I, 3 years ago, said, well, let's resurrect this again.
Oh.
And so we had our kids, and then my son's fiance, and then my wife's sister and her daughter, and now we have another nephew coming this year. So,
Great.
Nice.
A
Cool.
great concept. Yeah.
so we
That-
have to think and be creative about Christmas presents. Because you gotta carry it on the
A
plane.
new towel,
And then
new
they have to
bathing
carry it
suit.
home, so, yeah.
Right,
sunblock.
right, right.
Flip flop. We could do that.
All right, so while we're still legally able to talk together, I'm just curious, if we agree with the committee composition. I do, I just didn't know, different towns seem to have had a little bit different composition. And I didn't know, we put together a good list. I just don't know if everybody,
What do you mean by composition?
on page 3.
Page 3.
Suggested committee composition.
It's just a suggestion.
Mhm.
And you can clarify that these are suggestions, some of these are suggestions to get a good cross-section of the.
Right, I'm just asking if people
Yeah.
think there's somebody left out or somebody
Is-
that's necessary.
Do you have any suggestions?
No, I just was curious
Yeah.
about people's reaction to
Well,
the composition of the committee.
and right at the heading, we call it proposed possible next steps. So everything is proposed.
Things couch.
Everything is proposed. So, and
We're talking about what we
Right.
think.
yeah, and this is what we think, and it's up to the select board may decide a different mix.
We've
Um,
talked about this in a couple of these meetings.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, and so it's looking at best practices of what other towns have done. And if you look through this, it pretty much replicates what Mashpee did
I know.
with some additions, the community arts cultural rep. That was a suggestion I think that Bob had. One of the towns, it might have been Framingham, has their clerk on it. And, we talked about that it makes sense because the clerk owns this.
I mean, to Melanie's point, you could say a representative from the town administration. We could keep it simple, but we can go through that
Okay.
when we look it over. I mean,
I,
because the assistant town administrator may say, I don't have the time, but so-and-so might be able to do it.
Well, that's that's part of the conversation. We can't anticipate
No,
what people are gonna say. They could come back and say, well, we'll do this, this, and this. The key is that we're not up in the catbird seat. There's no way YHC, I mean, we're a stakeholder. So if it's not the assistant town administrator, then who in the town? Or is one of the select persons gonna step up and say, I like this, I'm an historian, I'll do it.
yeah, the question is, how much do you suggest? How much specific do you suggest? And,
I'm just curious, who's the assistant town?
oh, his name is Bill Scott. Bill Scott. He started, I don't know, more than a month ago.
Mhm.
Also, it's a new position or a new?
No, it was vacant for some time and Bill joined us. He came from North Shore / Southern New Hampshire, with a lot of experience. Can I ask one question?
Mhm.
So because thinking about Bob's comment about town administration, the third line down is administrative rep. Is that the same or was that kind of just someone to?
So what Mashpee has is a administrative person / registrar. So it's somebody that has, an administrative function
Doing the
Note
minutes
taker.
and stuff.
yes.
to do the
'Cause
minutes.
That
to
could
do-
even be someone who's not on the committee, just taking the notes and,
That's.
recording everything.
That's right. However, one would have to be,
paid somehow.
well, it would have to be part of the group and know that that's the person's responsibility to be at the
I
meetings.
I think if it was somebody from the town, you'd have to be paid, but if you, this is all gonna be volunteer. If you had a volunteer
Mhm.
from the public with good background,
Sure.
you could do it
Mhm.
for your, sure. It's gonna have to be a passionate group, so I'm not sure that.
You want to know, taking.
So, and again, one of the towns opened it up and there was no limit on the number of people that could be on the committee. And it would have been limitless. So if we begin to open it up and say, well, let's solicit who
Yeah.
wants to be on it, then you going down the slippery slope. So you can work on the language, but again, you know,
Put it out there.
that's right. So that's why it reflects what was prior done. And again, to try to avoid, once you start saying, well, let's solicit and now we got to get applications and then somebody has to go through it. And again, Mashpee's process started, I think, with 2 meetings a week. And that was because they didn't have anything to start with. So, you know, again, whoever chairs this, Bob Lawton, or Bill or whatever, it's like, all right, here's what we need to do. What's the first thing? We want public input. All right, let's work on a survey. Can somebody create it? Well, we already have one. And now you have the categories and now, well, okay, how does this fit within Yarmouth's vision and so forth? All right, we need to do this and this and this, identify who it is. Then it's, you got the owners and it's just, you know, managing the process on a monthly basis. So yes, we're all busy. The town's crazy. However, you open it up to bringing outside people in and volunteers. That's, again, read the problem that the state is having because it's volunteers, because there's nobody owning it. So change the words, don't prejudge it, get it out there, elicit conversations. My guess is they're gonna pull us back in front of them, but you know,
They'll try.
well, I mean, if they want us in front of them, we go in front of them. However, this is our proposal. You like it or not, and if you want to know why we use this language, fine, bring us in. But I strongly believe we shouldn't start thinking
Asking
and
for volunteers.
no,
Did any of the towns have a select board member?
Mashpee. David Wheaton is the selectman. Plus a tribal leader.
Mhm.
And so yes, he's a selectman.
Mhm.
And you can see that on the page 6. You know, the draft, and I thought I had put in David Whedon's selectman, but I mean, but he's a selectman. Now, I'm hoping Peter Smith will say, because he mentioned when the presentation, when we did our plan, he's a historian. So, you know, again, you need a head that's going to have the ability to work across the department, you know, the departments, because everybody's busy. But it has to be a manager. It has to be somebody with management skill and has some gravitas. Okay, off my soapbox.
All right, so we'll get it edited. And we'll send it out to everybody for one more read through.
When I go home, I'll look at my calendar.
Okay,
I'm pretty free.
okay.
I've tried not to jam a bunch of stuff in.
But you're gone.
19,
I
18,
can,
which is a week from Saturday,
18th through what you said?
the 3rd.
so we could maybe squeeze in a meeting next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if you want to have a commission meeting, you're gone until when?
The 3rd.
The 3rd, so we'd wait until the 9th.
Yeah.
or whatever that date was that I said.
Mhm.
So
That's fine.
We can.
Yep.
we could do that.
And again, if there's questions, we're almost there.
Mhm.
We're almost there.
Oh, good, yeah, I mean, the meat is here. without question.
Now we just need the
It's
potatoes.
all in the presentation.
Put it on the plate.
Yeah, that's it.
It's all in the presentation.
With no
It is in
sharp
the
knives,
presentation.
just butter knives.
You
Uh,
know why? You know why? You know why the table knives are rounded, right?
No.
No,
Because in the
But we're
early days,
gonna
there
know.
were a lot of deaths at the dinner table.
I can imagine.
Sharp knives.
Uh-huh.
Oh, interesting.
Dinner time is wrought with conflict. It is.
I thought it was just for cutting butter.
Drives me bananas.
No,
Uh-huh.
cutting.
There's a reason you
That's
can't cut your
funny.
meat with it.
That's great. Get that in the minutes, all right?
Absolutely. Very important historical point.
The origin of the butter knife.
That's right.
Uh,
All right, let's move on.
Okay.
It wasn't to spread butter.
That's
That's too
It's for
funny.
safety.
That's
Good
good to
to know.
know.
First, that's in there.
Good to know. That's right.
All right, let's go on to the budget request.
That's me again, right? All righty. So what you have in front of you is a
This is good.
pared down budget. And so Karen and I met earlier this week for an hour or so, and we talked like accountants and got into detail and counted bolts and everything. And so Karen made some great suggestions. So what you see here is a similar format. I moved some things around. So we have an executive summary right at the top. And as you can see, we've added ancient cemetery and the water pump as historical assets and locations that should be represented, because we will have costs associated with that going forward. For instance, the Village Water Pump and Memorial Arch, there'll be an annual preservation review, as we have listed in our other historical assets. And then the next summary draft is for our goals actualization. And again, you have the subtotals for operating costs for the assets, and then we have operating costs related to the actualization of our goals as presented to the select board. So we have a total of 16,108. Karen, that's a couple of grand more than the prior one, which was 14. And what we'll see here is what I did is I snuck in the dollars
I noticed.
for the windmill. I'm sure you saw it,
Okay.
but
The other, George, do you want to show, we talked, George and I talked about the informational mailings and the preservation awards, and I think those are things that we can absorb with the current community development budget. So it
yeah,
was really only, I think, $300 or something like
right.
that,
So
maybe 4, but do you,
I should have paginated this 3, 4.
there should be
5.
5 pages.
So page 4, Karen's so excited about this, she jumped ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Which one is it?
It's the, with
Green
the
page.
page 4, and it shows the informational
I
mailings
see.
category with that notation, Karen,
Yeah.
and then the
I
preservation awards.
was just thinking, George, that we show it
Mhm.
in the budget, because it's there.
Okay,
And then it'll be, I'm gonna have to kind of describe
got it.
that fact from my
Okay.
current budget.
Okay, so I'll put it back in.
Yeah.
So I mean, but okay, that's fair.
I can throw it in, because I have the spreadsheet now.
Yeah, it does say it on the side.
Right. I
Okay.
just wanted to roll up to the front page.
Mhm. Yeah, okay, if you add it to that,
Yeah.
I'll add it to my my master also, so we have it. So then on page 2, we start the line item detail. So we have executive summary. And again, back on page 1, obviously, Karen, I'm sure you've noticed this, under historic buildings, immediate need contingency, so
Yeah.
you can see there's, that number's from
Yeah,
ether,
The-
you know?
the only thing I want to do, George, is double check kind of my actuals against
Mhm,
your budget here, because so I'll give you guys a for instance,
mhm,
at the Judah windmill, the install and the takedown of the sales,
mhm.
it runs more like $1,000
Okay,
for each.
and that's
event,
fine. This is
so,
like a
yeah,
placeholder because I didn't know the rates, but yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
That's, whatever we can better structure this. And again, the difference with what you see here on page 2 is where I had built it originally, showing, the preservation component separate and then operating costs separate. And as Karen appropriately indicated, these are all operating costs, and so we've collapsed things, and each of the the historical assets will have comparable details. Some, of course, won't have sales and all of that stuff, but again, the numbers listed here were a best guesstimate, going, when we built it originally. And
But when it has a dollar, does that mean
that's just a placeholder.
to be determined?
Yeah. Yeah. And Karen and I talked about this, and as she pointed out now, all utilities go to the clerk's office to be paid. And they're not charged back. So,
And there isn't, did you?
yeah,
There should
I
be a
wish,
code that they put in.
I wish we were more, Bob, I'm a budget analyst at heart. It's how it's my
You
roots,
don't have
right?
to backtrack it if you
I
use a
wish, no, I,
transaction.
yeah,
type.
I don't
Bob,
know that
we're in
we're,
the same
we're
church.
as sophisticated as we might be.
A
So,
suggestion, there might be a code,
mhm,
there
or a
probably is
place
in
for
the
a
system
code.
that maybe
I think
they look at it.
there may be a place for the code. I'll go that far.
And Karen shared that Bill Scott, what's Bill's name? The vice chair, the vice
The assistant
assistant,
town admin,
what's his name?
Bill Scott.
Bill Scott. That he's looking at budgeting.
No,
and-
it's Bob, so the budgeting, Bob Rittenhour,
Oh.
the town administrator is
Oh.
reviewing budgets.
Okay.
Bill
So-
may be reviewing them as well, but
Yeah.
I'm aware that Bob is.
Okay, but that's a systemic problem, Bob. That's at the town level, and your points are well
It's
taken.
kind of an easy one to.
But yeah, but
ask.
well, ask Bob out to dinner and explain to him that you have this background and anything you can help him with, be happy to come in.
I mean, it's really a finance
Yeah,
question,
Yeah.
it's.
Actually, it is, because I look at it from the corporate standpoint,
Mhm.
when it's in manufacturing.
Mhm.
We would be we would be told what
Yeah.
type to put in, and we would put it in
Yeah.
every time we did a transaction, so it doesn't fall completely
I-
on
Yeah.
the finance.
Yeah, I don't think that we're, I mean, we can talk offline, but I'm happy to
Mhm.
show you what I see when I look, but I
Mhm.
think we're set up for a variety of different
Yeah, it may
coding
not be
scenarios.
visible to you.
But I don't know that it's, well, yes, that's often the case.
but this
anyways.
will come out because of our structure here. This will come out in conversation like,
Yeah.
we would love to put these numbers in where they have a dollar, but how do we get there? Where are they? That's somebody else's problem. So, that's written out going back to budget saying, here's your goal for next year. So the next year, when we come around this process, we know what goes into each
Mhm.
bucket.
And maybe there's, and
Yeah.
I'm happy to learn. Maybe there's a way that I'm not aware
Yeah,
of and we'll
yeah.
find it
I
out.
can't
I'm-
believe they don't care, because they care when you submit a budget, how much it is. But
Mhm.
Okay. Let's move on.
Okay. So we're not taking any action on this right now, we're still in.
do we
So-
need to,
No,
do we
I-
need to fill in any of these reds?
But let's just continue through, Baxter Grist Mill. You can see that the number of line items shrink. And then Ancient Cemetery, again, this is a placeholder, a template to say, hey, let's not forget, as we've done for the last, since 2008 or whatever, that here's what we own and what our charge is. And we're bringing these turkeys home. And you'll be hearing from us going forward. And the same with the village water pump. Next section is again, our actual, our goals and objectives. And again, as we talked about realistically during a budget process, you throw everything against the wall and ultimately, the town manager will say, nice idea, however, here's what we can give you, and then we'll prioritize based on what we know the number is. But again, the select board said, yes, do a budget, and that's what we're doing. And then last but not least is I moved the CPA grant down below. And again, I took the liberty, Karen, you probably saw, for Taylor
Oh,
Break Farm.
yeah, that's great.
So again, put it in there, so it's frontal lobe,
It's radar. It's
that's right,
lovely.
right, so, and then for the educational signage, this will be a CPA grant for, next year. We had targeted 2022, but that ain't gonna happen, because we're already past it, but it'll move out. And so this is it.
Great.
Can I make a suggestion
You go
for
ahead.
an action item if you'd like, because we are in the throes now
Mhm,
of budget season.
mhm,
And so I submitted my budget for the Community Development Department. I referenced the Historic Commission piece as being an unfunded component of the budget in general. But I'd like to be able to share, maybe like I said, I'd like to look against the actuals and kind of just take one more look with what George has put together.
mhm.
And then I'd suggest that we submit a memo to the town administrator as part of the budget stuff. And, offer, happy to meet to discuss.
Mhm.
And the other thing that I think you should think about is, the way I see it, so there's about $7,500 of money that I can document personally, because we don't have address codes that I'm aware of. So I can tell you, I can show you the invoices that we've paid. That there's at least about $7,500 every year. Now, you want to start doing this more of a preservation plan and maintenance. I'd throw that concept out there as part of this budget effort, because in my mind, one of the priorities is really, let's get a plan in place about what needs to be done, where, on what kind of regular basis, and that you want to make that ask. And I think that we can, when George and I were talking, one thing that we can do is look through the CPA project database for the state. We can get a ballpark figure on what that might cost,
Mhm.
because maybe that's something that could be funded, and then we codify this, we squirrel away the $7,500 or whatever it is. I think you're making your pitch for contingency, because, the example that George and I discussed was So up at the Taylor Bray Farm right now, we're doing the barn project. And there were costs that were honestly unbudgeted, associated with moving the operations from the barn into the cottage right now. We had to winterize things and,
Mhm.
you know, we've got, you know, extra bills
How
and,
does that get paid?
we kind of look here, there and everywhere and, find the funding. And we don't engage in things we can't pay for.
Profit from cemeteries.
It's, no, you know, it's basically, it's funny because someone, you know, we go through the cushions and we look for everything everywhere.
But if, let's just say this was accepted, then there would be no need for that, is that correct?
Well, you know, so the thing is with a contingency budget, so if say you got a contingency budget of $4,000 approved, that's great. You can cover $4,000 of expenses, but if the furnace goes unexpectedly,
Right.
or there's bad, you know, who knows, and you have another unforeseen cost, then we, you know, we go to the finance department, we go to the town administrator's office to look and see what other funding might be available. But we can't plan, you know, we do the best we can to plan for the expenses that we can anticipate.
So I'd like to make a proposal that, that the members, vote on the format of the budget that we have created and on our best guess estimates. And that given, Karen's request to have something to submit as part of the budgeting process, that, and that what she will be adding to our structure is her estimates of actual payments, that we approve that fact and that does not have to come back to us, and so that she can meet her deadlines. So proposed.
I second.
Yeah, all in favor?
Okey-dokey.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right.
We've come a long way, baby.
Getting close.
We've come a long way.
I have a couple of things.
Go ahead.
I attended a 2-hour preservation seminar by Sarah Cordia. the other day.
How was that?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting
Yes, it was
discussion.
good.
There were 28 attenders and from all over the Cape, from Falmouth to P-Town. I raised the question of realtors knowing and being bound to say something to prospective buyers in historic districts and so forth. And some guy from Orleans chimed in and said, that's already law. You know, they're breaking the law if they don't do it. You know, he was very emphatic about it. So, you know, sheepishly, I just sort of faded into the background. But then about 10 minutes later, somebody else said something about it, and then somebody else said something about it, and then somebody else said something about it. Okay, so while it may be law, nobody's following it. And so I think this falls under mailings, kind of the thing.
Mhm.
And because we have, we're asked to review, you know, these older properties and so forth. We should find out what is the law, I suppose, relative to realtors. And I think it would be within the scope of this commission to send letters to every real estate agent in Yarmouth about what the law is relative to historic properties in the historic zones. So that was the first thing, because I know we had a conversation
Mhm.
about, you know, is that in our jurisdiction? Well, if it's the law, then it is within our jurisdiction, because we're being asked to review.
Did anybody give a citation
Yeah, on what the law is.
of where the law lives?
No, but I
Or
can
did
reach out to Sarah
Mm-hmm,
and I'll
Yep,
reach out to Sarah.
absolutely.
Okay, and then the other thing I had to say, we went to see 33 Pleasant Street, right? That was the house that we went upstairs and they were gonna tear down the end and build they've demolished everything except the main building. And they did that this week.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I thought they were gonna raise the roof in the center, take off that shack on the end, and in that footprint, build another structure.
Right.
Well, they completely took everything out to the main building. They did that this week.
But we had a preliminary meeting. We never approved
We
anything.
did approve. This was when we
When was
were,
it? Do you recall?
it
Bob?
was
This
3
was-
years ago.
This was Dick, right? The architect, wasn't that Dick?
No, that's Homer Ave, I think. That you might be
No,
thinking
that
of.
was Homer. This is the one near my house.
Right,
It's the 2 houses over. from
Right.
where I live. We went there, we met as a committee. We toured the house.
mhm,
We walked the centerpiece and the roof was low. They
Mhm.
were gonna raise the roof up. They were gonna, I think, change a little bit of the porch area and so forth. And I saw them remove the porch. Okay, I said, all right. I saw them remove the shack. And the next thing I know, everything's gone. And yes, and they're, and not only that,
Oh, I think I know.
not only that, they had huge excavating equipment in there. Just pulling up all this sand and taking it away. So we lost, I think we lost an opportunity for a dig.
and we had asked the, the architect then, because I specifically remembered asking if they could check with the homeowners so that we could do some test pits beforehand. And some back, and he said, well, I think they'll, definitely want to do
This
that.
was the guy, we went around the back and there was some window,
See, I don't think. I know.
it was over on Pleasant Street. It was, there was a window structure with some eaves facing the back of the house. We had asked if they could, when they raised it up, if they could maintain all that.
Okay, yeah.
So in my mind, they were gonna take off the shack at the end, take off the roof, raise it up.
They say they were demolishing less than 25%,
No, they demolished 60%,
because the plans they submitted showed something
at least
less.
50% of that
I
house.
don't know what, where do we go from there?
I don't know. I don't know that we can go anywhere,
I
Right
don't,
now.
right,
but I was just shocked to
Mhm.
Is it
see.
fine? Is there anything?
no, there's no. That's why,
Wow.
Go by there and see. Unbelievable. Anyhow,
this is the house. I'll pull it up. Look, there's
There's a whole bunch
3
of them.
addresses. We will go to this one.
That's it.
Oh, man. Like,
Come this
whenever
way.
I drop them,
Right
it's
there.
going the
No,
wrong way
right there.
with
No,
the
next house,
landscaping.
next
It's,
house.
keep going
Yeah, that one right
with
there.
the speed limit right there.
The barn, remember they weren't gonna touch the barn.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep, and there's that,
There's the shack at the end.
Yep.
With the
Right there.
roof that goes this way that
Yep.
really doesn't go with the house. So the part with the chimneys, that's all still intact,
Mhm.
but they took
Okay.
everything else down. Yeah, see the porch
Yeah.
there?
That's gone?
Everything's gone, right
Oh
to the
my
house,
God.
and there's a big hole there.
Yeah, because this end.
They were
they
gonna use that footprint and build a house similar to the main, which they're still gonna do,
Right,
I assume. But now the footprint's gone. Nobody,
because
they've obliterated the footprint. Is what they've done. And so,
Oh, my God. Wow. Yeah, I mean, we need to find out where the process fell.
we
Um,
gave,
'Cause
we
we talked
approved,
about it.
we gave them the, because they weren't gonna remove it. They were going, that middle part, they were gonna, first of all, the porch was not a livable area. And they were gonna raise the middle part. So they weren't gonna demolish it. They were
Right.
just gonna raise it up. And the difference there was gonna be that the roof line was gonna be higher up against the house on both sides, where it was low, because they couldn't really use it. Anyhow,
So, Lisa, can we check, there should be minutes, on that?
Yeah.
it was at
Um,
least 3 years ago.
it's 2019.
2019.
It's 2019.
Okay, yeah, I'll look through and see what I can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was before
No, I
COVID.
thought-
Because that would have been one of the minutes that I would have caught up on.
Yep.
So let's see what's in the minutes.
So anyhow, those are my two.
I don't understand why there's nothing to be done.
Because there isn't.
Well, one, it's gone.
Yeah.
It's gone.
We would have done a
Right.
demo delay. All right, so the talk
Yeah.
continued about the demo delay. There are in Sandwich 2-year demo delays. And
Right.
what people are doing is they're just waiting it out.
It's by neglect.
They're just waiting it out,
Mhm.
letting it, just don't do anything,
Yep.
waiting it out, and then just going and doing what they want to
Well,
do.
that's the
So,
River Street address,
Right.
right? The, what's it, 151 River, or what's
Yeah.
that?
103.
103, 103.
103. So that's the same.
And one, there was a Falmouth was doing something very radical, and I don't remember what it was, but it was, I forget what it was, but it raised everybody's eyebrows that you could actually do this in this day and age, yes.
So I would suggest what we need to do is as we go through this process, that we create an Excel spreadsheet that lists
all the properties.
all the properties so that we can, on a quarterly basis, that needs to be a standard item on,
Revisit.
right, so that we check, and Lisa, unfortunately, this would fall to you, is that we check with the building department to get updates as to when shovel is gonna hit the ground.
I mean, and I'll go through on this one, I was
We
looking, I
never-
was trying to look quick and it was, there was recent inquiry back and forth because they came in for the demo permit. That's this is why I was saying the 25% business,
Yes.
because in what they had represented was less than
Yeah, 'cause all they're
25%.
gonna do is.
So it's hands off
Mhm.
for less than 25%. It can't go to the Cape Cod Commission.
Mhm.
But I'll look back on that one and then we can figure out some tracking system.
Right, and we
It's-
we
it's
should
beyond
capture,
us.
we should capture the
Yeah,
properties that
but
we've
I-
done.
I
over-
think too, it goes back full circle to the mailing idea and your comment about the
Mhm,
realtors.
mhm.
And, I think the number of addresses in Bass River, and then, we really haven't done any talking about the Yarmouth campground.
That's right.
But that's easy enough to get that list together and we can kind of see what's going on. I think going to the inventory and the macros stuff, maybe that's the next priority to kind of verify. Because I know from time to time, when we pull up the macros files, it may or may not be accurate.
Most of them are not.
So I don't know. That's another, and that could be another CPA request, next year, or, if you want to work on it now, that could be a commission priority. But then we can work on getting, I think in order to do a mailing and do a mailing to the realtors, we want to work on that content
Right.
and
So, yeah, there
be
would
sure
be-
about what it is we're mailing. out.
Be a two-tier mailing, as I'm thinking, and what triggered me was the $200 that's in here, probably more like $500, be my guess, but the realtors would get one mailing. And the homeowners would get another. And I suppose since we're, and after I made the comment and then was shut down and then other people came in, they have the same problem.
Yeah.
So, people just ignore it or get around it or just don't know. Most of them were just, one of the women that were on didn't know until this past year she was in a historic district, which means that
Right.
nobody ever told them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, all right, great stuff, Bob. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, do we have any updates on the farm that we need to know?
Oh, the farm, I can tell you, so we are moving forward. All the utilities are being addressed, so water's shut off to the barn. Gas still needs to be shut off to the barn, and electricity still needs to be shut off to the barn, but they've got, George went over, I know, and you saw a bunch of the supportive timbers that were put up to help brace the building before it's moved. The building permit's been issued. It's actually on my table to deliver to the contractor. We're supposed to meet today. One of the things that we are going to do that will be an improvement to the site, this is a change order, is the way the electricity comes in. The water is perfect. The water comes in from the street and then it goes three ways. And it goes out to the animals, out to the house, and out to the barn. It's perfect. We're gonna set up the electricity so that it's the same kind of a deal, because the issue came up when we saw how the power came in. We can't shut off the power to the animals because there's an electric fence and we need to keep the cow in place. The cattle. There's power to the house that needs to stay on because of the security and fire alarms that are in place. So we're dealing with that right now, but it's moving along. I don't know. The work is a bit weather dependent because it's foundation, and if it's getting to be too cold, we'll have to wait until spring. But the association
So we
has
braced
done a
it,
great
right?
job moving out, huh?
That's why we braced it.
That's right. Well, we braced it too, so just keep it there.
I can lift it.
But the association's done a great job. They're totally out of there. The barn is all clean and it
Looks good.
It looks great, and they're moved into the cottage across the way.
Great.
And I didn't make it down there. I meant to go. They had their holiday festival this past weekend, and I'm sure it was great.
So a quick question on the bracing, will they have to brace the new addition, that northern wall, in order to pick up the structure? They'll have to pick up the old section, the 1809, and then the newer section, the 1898 section, which, if they try to move now, could collapse. My understanding was they're supposed to go in and brace up the structures of that outside wall.
Yeah, I will check. I'm sure they are doing the bracing they need to do, or if they, I think some of it's done. I
They-
don't know that all of it's done.
When I was there a
So-
couple of weeks ago,
Yeah.
they hadn't touched anything on the new section of bracing.
There's quite a bit. I went in I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. It was after you were there.
Okay,
But,
all right, I'll
so
swing by.
I can check,
Yeah, because that's,
yeah.
clearly that has to be
There-
done,
There's,
because,
it's on them to do it,
absolutely, yep,
do it the
Okay.
right way.
all right, cool,
So,
good, thanks.
Okay, any updates on the windmill?
Beverly
Oh, what?
is, she's still working at the windmill?
Beverly, so, yeah, so I wouldn't want to out her. I did run into Beverly some time ago, who has resigned from the commission, but, she did tell me that she would be game to be point person for the windmill,
Right.
regardless of being a member here.
She
And I
told me-
can tell you the South, I don't know if you're part of it, Bob, I haven't been by this week, but, the wreath will be going up if it hasn't gone up already.
But I am gonna work with Beverly on a sign.
Awesome.
All right.
I
Sounds good.
actually have a painting from I think her name is Marion Stone, when it was the stone mill. William Stone owned it. She painted. And I'm using that as the centerpiece for the sign. She painted the windmill. It's really, really good job.
Very nice.
And Christmas?
Now I got to arrange for
I
a
see a
wreath
lot
on
of
that
people
one.
there.
Yeah, I do too.
I see a lot of people there.
It's
The baby
beautiful.
Swans all grown up. So.
There were 3 swans
Yeah, because they had a baby.
that
and
I
now it's all
saw.
grown.
Oh, is that the baby, the third one?
Wasn't killed by a mountain lion. So.
No, they kind of disappeared for a little bit when we had like that storm a while ago, and I was all worried about them, but they're there.
They're good. Yeah, I saw them, I saw them the other day.
Usually the Signage don't survive. They just don't. And the swan's made for life, so
Right.
if they lose a mate, it's trouble.
I didn't know if when a swan has lost their mate, do they somehow join in
No.
with another pair just for company,
they
you
don't.
know?
Well, so,
Wow, it's sad. It is sad.
So far, we got a little trio going, so there are. All right, any staff reports or correspondence that we need to know about?
No, I think the blue sky, that's the one
Oh,
thing
yeah.
we can confirm that with you. I think that the subcommittee is meeting on the 14th, which is next Tuesday.
Okay.
And I think that the town administration is working on a comment letter. We are still without a Cape Cod Commission representative, but hopefully that will be remedied sometime soon.
And then last thing, we just have to review the minutes from November. They're on the back. They're in your packet.
Looks good, great job, Lisa.
You know, I went by 9 Homer.
Yes.
I looked at the barn. It's got that one window. Like all the other windows, it's black, it's painted black, so you almost can't see the mullions on it.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be the worst thing. It's got 2 panels on top, none on the bottom. The rest of the house and the proposed new building has 3 panels on top. And I suppose as I look at it, it would be closer to the look of the house the way it is now, because those weren't the original. And the new proposal, and I don't think anybody would be able to tell the difference. Just on the window that faces the home.
So I'd like to make a motion that we accept the minutes as presented.
All there?
I
Okay.
Motion to adjourn, any other business?
No other business. All right, all in favor of adjourning? Yay. Thanks, everybody.
Just information, sent an email, reading the Cape Cod Times this morning. There's a Zoom breakfast tomorrow. The Barnstable Human Rights Committee. is-
Breakfast on Zoom, do they deliver?
They do.
They deliver
No,
your
they've
breakfast?
created smell-o-vision now, so you can smell the coffee and
You
you
just
know,
can't
taste
take
the
it.
bagels. But it sounds like
No.
an amazing,
Smell-o-vision.
An aroma zoom.
yeah,
There you go.
The smell.
yeah. So information, it sounds like it's, you know, a great thing that Barnstable Human Rights Committee is doing in honoring the, you know, the Native peoples. And
That's nice.
so I signed up, Bob signed up. So good stuff.
Well, if anybody's interested in seeing the Nutcracker, my daughter's ballet company is performing it
Ooh,
the 18th and 19th at Monomoy High School. 2 shows on Saturday, 1:30 and 6:30, and 1:30 and 6:30.
Oh my gosh, that
Is
was
she-
3 years
what
ago,
is she
right?
Something
in it?
fancy?
She is going to be the lead Spanish in the
Ooh.
the Saturday evening performance, and she's also going to be the granny. Very
that's-
excited to be the granny.
all
Wow,
right.
And then she has other parts too, but
That's
that's her
fun.
lead, her most lead part. is the
Wonderful.
Spanish. She's gonna
Congratulations.
be-
It's a really nice nutcracker.
It is a
Because I
good
went to that a
nutcracker.
couple of years ago.
Mhm.
yeah, as did I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
God, she was a little thing then.
I know. She's so grown up.
Hmm.